Days of Our Lives preview. Week of March 11. CPR for Tripp and Wendy. John's fatal discovery. Tate kisses Holly. Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. After watching these videos, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Days of Our Lives spoilers exercise videotape for the week of March 11 to 15 reveals that Tate Black will climb up to Holly Jonas' bedroom window, so she'll let him in and express her shock over his bold move. Tate will be overwhelmed at the sight of Holly looking so full of life again. Once Tate admits he's missed Holly so much, he'll factory a kiss on her and sweep her off her bases. Of course, effects will get complicated once EJ DiMera and Nicole DiMera intrude this little reunion. Other days spoilers say Steve Johnson, John Black, and Ava Vitale will find the tank that Officer Goldman shut the reflections on. That's where Tripp Johnson and Wendy Shin have been held all this time, so it'll be a relief for Ava and the others to eventually find their position. Unfortunately, there'll all be enterprises about whether this deliverance might have come too late. Once breathless Wendy and Tripp are dragged out of the tank, Days spoilers say they all need CPR incontinently. As Steve does casket condensing on Tripp and John works on Wendy, Ava will demand to know if they are breathing. There will be some scary moments, but Wendy and Tripp are going to pull through and give their loved bones some great news to celebrate. Meanwhile, Days will reveal the identity of the angel who just showed up in Paulina Price's sanitarium room. It's you! Paulina exclaims in Days of Our Lives' daily exercise videotape, which also features the womanish angel's marriage ring set on her hand. There's a good chance this angelic caller will be Lexi Carver, who was preliminarily married to Aid Carver and loved him dearly before her early demise. Aid can't flash back his history with Lexi or anyone differently, but he may feed her from Prince ultimately. Whatever the case, Aid will worry that Paulina's about to join Lexi on the other side. But Paulina will be given a miraculous recovery rather. As for Abe, it looks like this will set the stage for his recollections to return as well. Next, Konstantin Melimis will tell John the story of how the pawn took out his cherished Katharina back in Greece. John may want to believe Konstantin is just intruding with him, but you'll have to face the possibility that the disclosure is true when he overhears Steve passing in Marlena Evans after Steve addresses about Victor Kyriakis transferring him to Aria on a charge with the pawn. He'll explain how it went wrong and ended with Katharina's grim fate. Are you telling me that John killed that girl? Marlena asks while a devastated John eavesdrops from the doorway. Still, Days of Our Lives spoilers say effects may not have happened relatively like they sounded, so stay tuned for updates on John's attempt to prove his innocence down the road. Days of Our Lives spoilers recap. Friday, March 8. Clyde and Goldman escape as lovers. Ava goes rogue. Days of Our Lives spoilers recap for Friday, March 8 reveals that Steve Johnson and John Black checked in with Ava Vitale at the airport, where they verified they were ready for the coming phase of their plan. At Statesville on Friday's day's occurrences, a couple of guards caused a chemical response by designedly discovering barrels of bleach and ammonia. There were flashing lights and admonitions, so Clyde Weston smiled in his cell and awaited escape help. Steve and John appeared soon after wearing defensive suits, so they gave one to Clyde and got him to the airport. That's where Ava pulled a gun along with the two guards working for her. Ava blazoned that they'd be doing effects her way and had those guards lead Steve and John offsite. Once Ava was alone with Clyde, he said he appreciated her help stopping John and Steve from double-crossing him. That said, Clyde didn't really trust Ava either, so he said he'd give Tripp Johnson's position once he was on the airplane and in the air. That didn't work for Ava, who wanted to know Tripp's position right now. Ava hovered to shoot Clyde in the groin, but Officer Goldman ambuscaded Ava and gained control of the situation. Once Goldman held Ava at gunpoint next, she said she liked Clyde's man corridor just the way they were. Goldman made sure Ava was tied up and made out with Clyde as it came clear they were a couple. Since Clyde assumed that the airman of the aeroplane was working for Ava, he planned to drive out of Salem with Goldman rather. Goldman told Ava not to bother looking for Tripp since she formerly made sure he was a goner, so Ava was devastated and furious. In the Demen on Friday's day's occasion, Steve and John managed to give their guards the slip, so they ran down. In the tank, Wendy Shin bothered to Tripp about running out of air, but he admitted carbon monoxide was the bigger concern. Tripp suggested taking slow, shallow breaths and had a deep discussion with Wendy, who wanted to talk about God, the afterlife, and their parents' brewing grief. Wendy confessed that she had hoped to get wedded and have kiddies eventually, but she felt she'd no way have the chance now. Tripp claimed he'd marry Wendy on the spot, so they changed some sweet promises and kissed. As Wendy and Tripp came drowsy and weak, she asked if he'd marry her for real when they were free. Tripp said he would, but neither one of them sounded veritably apprehensive of what they were saying at that point. At the sanitarium on Friday's Days of Our Lives show, Paulina wasn't doing well at all. Abe Carver refused to leave Paulina's side and cried over not wanting to lose her. Still, Paulina got Abe to promise he'd take care of her girls if she didn't make it, so he indeed promised to watch over Lainey Grant Channel DeMera along with their misters and the halves. After Channel and Lainey showed their support for Paulina, they opened up about their fears and regrets in the waiting room. Lainey assured Channel that if they lost Paulina, they would be there for each other and get through this. Once Paulina came tired again on Friday's Day's occasion, Abe said he'd understand if she didn't want to keep fighting. Abe felt that they had each learned to get on without Paulina since that's what she'd want, but he was easily crushed at the study of that. Paulina ultimately opened her eyes to see that she was girdled by white light and a near angel, so she signaled across the room and got Abe to look at the figure standing there too. Days of Our Lives spoilers say there are some unanticipated moments ahead for Paulina and Abe, so stick with us for updates on some shocking news at the sanitarium. Thanks for watching these videos. Please hit the subscribe button for more updated news.